Hello everyone, welcome to Come Sit at My Table. We're Tom and Melissa, and we really appreciate that you're here with us today. It is the fall of the year, and for some reason, I associate fall with maple. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, I just have this connection between fall and maple flavor. So today, we're going to make a maple custard. It's something that I absolutely love. So, my first and earliest memory of having something maple that I absolutely fell in love with was when I was, I guess, a young teenager, and my family went on vacation to Niagara Falls. We crossed the border into Canada, and my dad bought us these small maple candies that were shaped like a maple leaf that were made of pure maple syrup. Still makes my mouth water to think about those candies. I still love them today. So let's talk about what we're going to use today to make maple custard. We're going to start with 3 large eggs. Now, I have already started whipping 3 eggs over in my mixer because they take a while to mix. You want to make sure they're mixed well because you don't want chunks of eggs still in your custard, or you'll have scrambled eggs in your custard. So I've already started whipping those just to make sure that they were beaten up well and, wouldn't have chunks of eggs in there. So 3 eggs. Then we're going to need 1/2 cup of pure maple syrup. I have this pure Vermont maple syrup that one of our children brought back to us from a vacation that she and her husband went on. And so that's what we're using today. You want to make sure that it is pure maple syrup. You don't want to use something like pancake syrup. We're also going to use 2 cups of whole milk, and we're going to use a pinch of salt. Now, there are a couple of optional ingredients which I do not use. First is vanilla. A lot of people do put just a teaspoon or so of vanilla in their maple custard, and that's fine if you want to add that. I don't add it because I just like that strong maple flavor. And some people like to sprinkle nutmeg on top of the custard before they bake it. I don't do that either because, again, I like just the flavor of the maple. So I don't use either one of those, but we will put that in the recipe below as optional ingredients. Let me also tell you, I should have told you this when we were looking at the maple syrup. We are using an amber maple syrup. That's a really dark maple syrup. And so it will cause our custard to be a little bit darker. It won't be yellowish like you think of a custard. So just remember that when you're buying maple syrup. The darker the syrup is, if you're going to use it for custard, the darker your custard will be. Won't hurt a thing. It just changes the color a little bit, but it still gives it a great flavor. Now, we're going to need some ramekins. And for the amount of custard that we're making today, you're going to need 4 1-cup ramekins. If you want to use a smaller ramekin, maybe a 1/2 cup or a larger one, you can do that. You would just have to adjust the baking time. And I'm going to tell you that I don't know what that baking time would be for larger or smaller ramekins because I always use these 1-cup ramekins. So you'll need 4 if you're using a 1-cup size. And you're going to need some kind of a baking dish to put those in because we're going to set them in here and we're going to put hot water around them to bake them in. The reason you do that is it's actually called a bain-marie. But when you put hot water around a custard, it helps the custard not to split on top, and it just helps it to have a really silky, smooth texture. So you want to make sure that you put your ramekins in a baking dish and put some hot water around it. Okay, I have some water in our microwave, and it was boiling, but I'm just going to restart it. It's still steaming. I'm going to restart it just so it's good and hot when we get ready to use it. Now, we're going to start our mixer, and I told you I've already beaten up the eggs. So I'm just going to pour our maple syrup into the eggs. And I'm going to add the whole milk. Let those two mix in. And I will add our pinch of salt. Now, if you are somebody who can't have salt, if you have a heart condition or there's a reason you can't have salt, then by all means leave that out. If you wanted to use vanilla, this is where you would add the vanilla. Probably a teaspoon or a little better. So just add it right now if you want to add vanilla, but we're not going to. All right, we're going to make sure that's whipped up together really well. Hopefully we have whipped our eggs well enough that we won't have pieces of egg. If you don't have your eggs whipped enough, you will end up with pieces of egg in your custard, and it'll be kind of like having scrambled eggs in your custard. So you just, now that I've said that, I think I'm going to whip it again. You just want to make sure that it's whipped together really well and that there's no pieces of that egg left in there. You want it to be completely whipped up. Okay.
So how long would you recommend whipping before, because I know you did a little bit before we started.
I did. I think I whipped them probably 3 to 4 minutes maybe, and I did that on a pretty high speed. I don't think I had it all the way up, but it was pretty close to the high speed. You know what? You know I'm not going to leave that in there.
And why are you transferring it to that?
Well, I'm transferring it to this measuring cup because it's hard to pour from this mixing bowl without spilling it. So I'm pouring it into this mixing cup, or this measuring cup. That makes it easier to pour it into my ramekins without spilling it. It doesn't mean I won't spill it, because if anybody could spill it, it would be me. So I'm going to put my ramekins in my pan. Sorry, I should have moved that. And then I will just fill these up. And you can fill them as full as you want, divide it up so that they're pretty even. You want them close to having the same amount, because if they don't, then one will get done before the others, or one will take a lot longer. And what you can do is, after you get them all filled to about the same amount, if you've got some still left, then just go back and put a little more in them. That's what I'm going to do now, just to make sure they all have about the same amount.
No chance of them overflowing?
No, they will puff up a little bit, but I don't think they'll run over. Now, sometimes I put this on the shelf of the oven before I put water in it. But a lot of times when I do that, I slosh out the egg mixture. So, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, ooh, that is steaming hot. You'd almost think it'd been boiling or something, huh? I'm gonna put this under it just in case we drip some. Now, you don't want this in your custard. You want to do this slowly and just pour it right around your custard. Let it come up about halfway up the sides of your ramekins. Just be careful not to get any in your custard. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Now, I'm just going to carefully open my oven door and transfer this to the oven. Our oven is preheated to 350 degrees, and we are going to bake those for 40 minutes. After 40 minutes, we will check them by inserting a knife in the center of one of them. If it comes out clean, they're ready. If it comes out wet, you might want to add you will want to add another 5 minutes to it. So somewhere between 40 and 45 minutes probably, but you'll want to check it just to see if it's ready. Now here's the thing, when it's finished baking, you've got to carefully take those ramekins out of that water. That water will be scalding hot. So take those out, put them on a cooling rack, and let them sit out for probably 30 minutes or so, and then put them in your refrigerator. You want them to chill completely before you eat them. So once they've set out on the cooling rack and come close to room temperature, you can put them in the refrigerator, let them get cold, and then you can serve them. All right, we're going to do all of that. We won't be back now until they've been chilled in the refrigerator, but when they're ready to eat, we'll come back and let you see what they look like. We'll see you in just a minute. Our maple custard actually baked for right at 50 minutes. Then we removed it from the hot water, let it cool for a while, put it in the refrigerator, and it has now been chilling in the fridge for about 3 hours. Now it's time for my favorite part. We get to do a taste test. You ready, babe?
Sure. Really nice.
That is really mapley. That is really good. It's so creamy and smooth. That's just really good. I think it would be fine if you wanted to put vanilla in it, although I really prefer it just with the maple. And it would be good with some cinnamon or nutmeg on top if you wanted that. But again, we like it just like this. That is so creamy and good. It's not overly sweet.
Yeah, it's not overwhelming at all.
The maple syrup is just enough to sweeten it without it being overly sweet. All right, thank you again for watching our videos. Remember that right below this video, there is a description box. It'll have the title of the recipe. If you click there, that box will expand. Melissa always puts the written recipe there for you, so you'll have it written out, and our contact information is under that. We would appreciate you giving us a thumbs up and clicking that subscribe button if you've not already done that. But most of all, we want you to remember that you are always welcome to come sit at my table. Have a great day.